Whether the team is performing clean or unsightly, we'll cover it all here in Washington Football Night. I, of course, am your set man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, Washington football team announces today that they've officially put offensive tackle Geron Christian on injury reserve. Now, we're getting pretty late in the season. This is week 11. He's not able to come off until week 14. For all intents and purposes, I don't think we can definitively say this ends his season, but we're getting pretty close to the end of the season. To be put on IR at this point, you're coming dangerously close. Look, they'll take any help they can get down the stretch, and who knows what happens over the next 3 weeks. You know, they could win all 3 of their next 3 contests, and all of a sudden you're sitting there at 5-7, and you're right in the thick of things in the NFC East for all we know. But and they could desperately use a left tackle at that point. But if things go the way that they've been trending of late, and they continue to lose, and you look up and we're 2-10 in 3 weeks, what the hell are you bringing Geron Christian back for? You know, so I don't know. That's the big picture. The small picture, you know, from a macro approach, it's, hey, maybe he's done for the season. What does the future hold at the left tackle position? Do they look elsewhere in the offseason to address left tackle? In the micro sense, what the hell are we going to do this week at left tackle? Cornelius Lucas is not going to play this week. He looks very doubtful at this point. I shouldn't definitively say he's not playing, but he didn't practice again today. If you don't practice on Thursday, for me, a lot of times, that means you're not playing on Sunday, more likely than not. If he's not able to go, does that mean they make the full switch to Morgan Moses to the left side and David Sharp on the right side? They won't tell us what they're doing, and nor should they. All right, they don't need to give away any kind of information that could be a competitive advantage for Cincinnati heading into the game. But if I had to guess, they're going to take Morgan Moses, they're going to move him to the left side of the offensive line, and David Sharp, who came in the game, I want to say fourth quarter last game against Detroit, is going to be playing right tackle. We are getting very, very thin. This is the reason we had that debate when the 53-man roster came out and we didn't know what Washington. Remember, right before the 53-man roster was announced, they traded for David Sharp. It changed everything, you know? And remember, we were having this debate on, well, are they going to keep Cornelius Lucas now? Remember, he had a really rough training camp. They weren't that impressed with him. They traded for David Sharp. What does them trading for David Sharp mean anyway? Well, they held on to Lucas. They held on to Sharp. Obviously, they traded for him. They weren't going to cut him. And so you were sitting there with a situation with 5 tackles, you know, at the time, because Sadiq Charles was still a tackle. Now, we're looking like, man, it's a good thing they did do that, because Sadiq hasn't panned out as a tackle, hasn't been able to stay healthy. Doesn't matter what position. Guard, tackle, doesn't matter. He hasn't been healthy, period. Geron Christian is banged up. Now he's on IR. Cornelius Lucas is now banged up. And now you're down to your last tackle. We have if he gets injured, you're going to be tapping into, more likely than not, some practice squad guy that you had to elevate. It could get really murky on Sunday if guys aren't able to stay healthy. It could get really, really ugly. God forbid anything happen to Morgan Moses. All right, so this is when injuries really start to hit hard. It isn't when you have a plethora of injuries. Even though you have enough of them, it can hurt you. When you start having your frontline guys go down at multiple positions, yeah, you're going to feel the impact of that eventually. But injuries hurt most when they ravage one particular position on the team. And on the offensive side, it's been the offensive line. Sheriff gone for an extended period of time, losing rookie Sadiq Charles, not really having him all season long. Now you're dealing with injuries to Geron Christian and Cornelius Lucas. And the safety position on the defensive side of the football has been an issue, and it's getting hit hard. No DeShazer Everett at practice today. Pretty safe to say Shays is not playing in this game. So you're going to have a situation where They can't be comfortable with Troy Apke back there. They can't be. So I'm thinking this week in practice, they're really taking a hard, long look at the safety that they brought up a few weeks ago when we had the Eric Reed conversation, and they said, hey, no. We're going to give this guy an opportunity. He was in camp with us. I can't remember his name. It'll come to me. But I think it wouldn't shock me if we get out there on Sunday and we take our first defensive possession of the game, and he's out there. Reeves, that's his name, Reeves. It wouldn't shock me if Reeves is out there and not Troy Apke. Apke and Kendall Fuller almost gave up that deep ball for the touchdown on the final possession of the game with like 13 seconds left, 12 seconds left. It's ridiculous. It wouldn't shock me if they said, hey, Reeves, we're going to give you a shot. We know what Troy Apke is. Seen enough of that. Don't want to do that anymore. Let's see what you have. And it wouldn't shock me in the least if he's out there early and often in Week 11 versus Cincinnati. We're really thin at safety. We're really thin along the offensive line, specifically at tackle. We can't afford any more injuries at either one of those positions. We are decimated at both of those spots. But honestly, outside of that, we're relatively healthy right now. Knock on some wood. We're relatively healthy right now. So I'd like it to stay that way. Bottom line is, I talked about Jaren Christian needing to be put on IR. Did I not tell you guys this 2 weeks ago? What are they waiting on? This injury is a lot more serious than they led us to believe. And I said, why don't you just put him on IR? You're holding up a roster spot for what? They finally put him on IR. I don't think his knee responded the way that they hoped. Remember, he practiced on a limited basis last week, and I think it got worse. And they realized, okay, this thing isn't healing the way that we thought it was going to. Probably swelled up on him. And they said, okay, all right, let's just go ahead and put him on IR, let him fully heal, not try to push him, not try to have him rehabbing anything. Just let it heal. And then we'll get him back out here if we are in a position that warrants somebody coming back from injury that late in the season. So they'll reevaluate his situation in 3 weeks when he's eligible to come off of IR, and they'll see what happens then. But we're really thin along that offensive line, specifically at tackle. We're thin at guard too. I mean, think about it. Sadiq Charles was going to get the start. He got the start versus Giants in Week 6. He gets injured on the second play of the game. Back in comes Wes Schweitzer. Now, obviously, if anything would have happened to either Schweitzer or Brandon Sheriff, they would just go right back to Wes Martin. He's sitting there, but he got benched for a reason. So, you don't want to see anything happen to anybody at guard either. We're really thin along this offensive line as it stands. And hopefully we're able to continue to stay relatively healthy because the injuries are starting to pile up. Lose your starting quarterback in Kyle Allen. You lose your starting safety and Landon Collins for the season. And these injuries are starting to mount. So hopefully we stay relatively healthy the remainder of the way. The injury report looks pretty good this week. Speaking of which, let's get to that and talk about the injury report for the game against Cincinnati. We'll take our first look at the injury report for the week, and it's a pretty clean one for Washington. Look, all the guys that are out aren't practicing. More likely than not going to play in the game. None of them are massive contributors outside of the offensive linemen. So at the end of the day, you don't really feel the sting of a lot of these guys not practicing as we take a look at the injury report for Washington to start. And you see Ryan Anderson with the knee. He's been dealing with a couple of nicks and bruises all season long. This one may finally catch up to him and not allow him to play. He got limited snaps on Sunday versus Detroit anyway. So, all they'll do is just bring up, one of the guys that they have on the practice squad, like a James Smith-Williams, one of those guys that is on the roster that just isn't active on game day. And they'll just bring one of those guys up and he'll take those reps. So they won't miss much there. Jaren Christian Sr., I just told you, is now officially on IR. So he's really no longer a part of this injury report because he's he's out for the next 3 weeks minimum. Could be even longer. DeShazer Everett was the guy that I was really looking at, hoping that he'd be able to play. Those hopes are pretty much dashed at this point with the ankle injury that he sustained in the loss to Detroit in the third quarter of that ball game. He did not practice on Wednesday. Not a surprise. Not practicing on Thursday is the key for me. I think he's all but out of this game in Week 11 versus Cincinnati. And I'd venture to say with the short week against Dallas, the following week, he'll be out of that game as well. I'm looking forward to him being back, though, in Week 13 after that long hiatus. I think he'll be ready to go in week number 13. We shall see. No guarantees there either. Dustin Hopkins, groin injury. This is the same situation from last week where he was really a non-participant for much of the week. They said, look, he's got to kick something on Saturday or else he's not going to be in the lineup. He kicked on Saturday. He looked fine, went through pregame, was fine. He ended up being the place kicker for the game. If I'm Washington, I'm looking for any excuse to not play Dustin Hopkins to see if Kare Vedvik can give us something. Can he be consistent? So I would use this right groin injury as a reason to say, hey, Dustin, just heal up. We need you healthy, and give Kare Vedvik an opportunity. If he misses anything, then you might as well just go back to Dustin. If this guy comes out and he's flawless, let's say he has to kick 3 field goals, one of them's from 53, which Dustin seems to not be able to make anything over 50, and he bangs one from 53 and he's 3 of 3 in a game, hey, I want to see more of this. And so you say, hey, Dustin, we're going to give you another week to heal. Let's see what this young kicker Kare Vedvik has. And if he's 3 of 3 again the following week versus Dallas, including a 55-yarder indoors, then you say, all right, Dustin, man, we're going to keep you on the roster, but we're going to demote you to the practice squad. And, you know, obviously you have to release him. He has to clear waivers. If you cut Dustin Hopkins, more likely than not, someone else is going to sign him. That's why you don't want to do that. But you don't want to hold 2 roster spots for kickers either. So that'll be interesting. But I think that's why they're trying to avoid this, because no one is coming after Kare Vedvik. But if you cut Dustin Hopkins, you might not be able to get him to clear waivers. There are a lot of teams that could use kickers. He's been a really solid kicker. He's got a big leg. They really don't want to part ways with him. They're showing you that I don't want to part ways with him. But again, you can't keep missing kicks. It's the same thing I said once upon a time for Graham Gano, who I was a huge fan of. And you see what Graham Gano has become in the league. He's been a really good kicker for the Panthers. He's a great kicker this year for the Giants. You know when guys can kick. You can see it. You know when guys can't kick. Graham Gano can kick. Dustin Hopkins can kick. It's all in his head. It's all mental right now. He has to get over this hump. And if he's able to do it in a Washington uniform, that would be great. Because I really like Dustin, and I know this guy is really capable. But at some point, you have to cut your losses, and you got to be able to admit this guy just can't do it here. He may do it somewhere else. He just can't get it done here. And you got to move on. I hope he's able to get over this and kick consistently here, because good kickers are hard to find. You guys know that. I know that. Dustin's been a good kicker for us. Not great. Great kickers are almost impossible to find. You know, only 6 or 7 teams in the league feel really good about their kicker and have a guy that's been with them for the last 5 years plus. Like, teams change kickers so often. You know, there are like 5 to 7 kickers in the league where you're like, he's a really good kicker. You know, Harrison Butker in Kansas City, really good kicker. Obviously, Justin Tucker, the best kicker in the league. You know, there are kickers like that where you look and you say, all right, been with the team for quite a while, established himself, doesn't miss very often. They feel really good about their kicking situation. There aren't many teams like that in the league. So a great kicker is damn near impossible to find. Good kickers are hard to find. The rest of the league, they come dime a dozen. So you don't want to cut Dustin. I know he's frustrating a lot of you, and you're ready to move on. Again, grass isn't always greener, especially when you're talking about place kickers in this league. But I would be really tempted to look at Kari Vedvik. With this injury to Dustin Hopkins, I'm really tempted to say, hey, Dustin, we got a quick turnaround on Thanksgiving. We want you ready for the Cowboys game. We're going to let Kari kick this week. And if he does well, we'll say, hey, Dustin, quick turnaround. We don't want to rush you. We're going to give Kari another opportunity. And if he kicks it well in that game, then you say, all right, got a decision to make. You got 14 days before your next game. You got a decision to make. Figure it out. 11 or 12 days, I should say, before your next game. After that quick turnaround against Dallas on Thanksgiving, figure out what you want to do with your kicking situation during that mini pseudo bye week. Anyway, Dontrelle Inman, hamstring injury. He did not practice today. Again, wide receiver is one of the few positions that we don't necessarily need you at right now. We're very deep at receiver. So he can take his time and come back. I'm going to start to need updates on AGG. After the Cowboys game, I'd like him to be ready to play. We need to see him. Unlike a Jaron Christian who's on IR, I don't necessarily need to see him back this season, especially if we're out of it. With Antonio Gandy-Golden, I don't give a shit if it's week 16. If he's able to play, he needs as many reps as possible. It's just a hamstring. It's not like he broke his foot or his ankle or, something like that requires surgery. It's a hamstring. So once he's healthy, he needs to get out there because he needs as many reps as possible. This entire rookie season for him has been essentially a wash. It's been a waste. So it'll be like he's a rookie all over again next year. The only difference will be from a mental standpoint, he'll know the playbook a little bit better and he'll be able to go out there without having to think as much. But in terms of adjusting to the speed of the game and getting reps, he hasn't done enough of that. So I need him to get back on the field at some point this season. I don't care if it's only for the last 2 weeks of the season. Just need to see this guy out there and build a little bit of confidence heading into 2021. Cornelius Lucas, his ankle, not going to play. And you know what? Probably won't play next week against Dallas either. So that's why it's important. That's why it is imperative that we stay relatively healthy because it's a quick turnaround versus Dallas on Thanksgiving. So we can't afford anybody on the offensive line, specifically at tackle, to get nicked because they're not going to have a week to heal up like they normally would to try to prepare to play in a Sunday game. It's a Thursday game. And Jarrett Norris, special teams linebacker, hamstring, he's going to be out as well. So everybody you see on this list, with the exception of Dustin Hopkins, you can go ahead and pencil them in. Don't write it in pen, but you can pretty much pencil them in for being out on Sunday versus Cincinnati. Dustin Hopkins is probably the only guy with an outside shot of all these players who haven't practiced the first 2 days. And remember, we're not actually practicing at the facility. They're doing walkthroughs and they're doing everything virtually right now. So again, we'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. As we get from our guys to Cincinnati, they've got a ridiculous list here. But look, similar to Detroit last week, where the list was like, I think Detroit's was 16 players long. And I told you, of these 16, 12 of these guys minimum are going to play. They only had 3 guys out. Of the list of 16, only 3 of those guys did not play. Their tackle, Big V, their wide receiver, and one of their linebackers. That was it. Everybody else played. So I'm looking at this list, and you're seeing a bunch of limiteds. You're seeing a bunch of fulls. A lot of this is non-injury related. Like the first 3 guys on the list, Geno Atkins, Mike Daniels, AJ Green, all didn't practice Wednesday. All but Geno Atkins practiced fully on Thursday. None of them are injury related. Those guys are playing on Sunday. Okay. Then you get to Joe Mixon. That's the guy that I was looking at because he hasn't played in the last 3 weeks. And I said, wouldn't it be fitting that he would come back against us and rush for 175 yards and kick our ass? Well, it doesn't look like he's playing against us either, and I'm happy about that. With the way our run defense is struggling right now, the last thing we need to see is Joe Mixon. I'll take my chances with Giovanni Bernard and one of our old friends, good old Samaje Perine. I'll take my chances with either one of those guys. I want no parts of Joe Mixon. Doesn't look like we're going to have to deal with him. He didn't practice Wednesday, didn't practice Thursday. More likely than not, he's going to miss his 4th straight game I can't say that I'm upset about that. Then you got another non-injury related situation here with Jermaine Pratt, their second or third round back from 2 years ago, a linebacker, I should say, from 2 years ago, full participant today. He's playing, okay? Concussion, Mackenzie Alexander, full participant today. He's playing. Jesse Bates, non-injury related illness, full participant today. He's playing, okay? Bobby Hart, tackle, knee injury, full participant today. We'll monitor that tomorrow. More likely than not, though, he's playing. Okay, so we've gotten through this first about 8 guys on this list, all of them full participants, all of them going to play except for Joe Mixon, essentially. Alex Redmond, guard, bicep injury, did not practice today. Keep an eye on him. He is a starter, so if he can't go, that's problematic. LaShawn Sims, cornerback, concussion, full participant. He's going to play, more likely than not. Xavier Williams, defensive tackle, back, limited. That's a guy to keep an eye on. Jonah Williams, first round pick from the 2019 draft, who didn't play all of 2019 with an injury, has a stinger. Full participant Wednesday, full participant Thursday. What does that tell you? Okay. So again, you see where this is going. The final 3 guys, 1 corner, 2 wide receivers. Tony Brown, cornerback, did not practice with a foot injury. He might be out. Not a big fixture on their football team, though. These next 2 are T. Higgins, wide receiver, illness. He's going to play. He didn't practice today. Unless this guy is really sick and doesn't practice again tomorrow and then doesn't practice on Saturday and then isn't able to travel, they say, hey, he was sick. We left him at home. He didn't travel with the team. I still think he's going to play. He's right now their second best wide receiver behind Tyler Boyd. AJ Green hasn't been great this season. He hasn't. Their 2 most reliable receivers have been Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, their rookie second round pick out of Clemson. So if he can't go, that's massive. That's massive. He's going to go. If I had to guess, he's going. And Mike Thomas is another receiver for them. Hamstring injury, limited in practice today. He's a guy that is a contributor on that football team. If he can't go, that would be nice as well. So a lot of guys, they need to shrink this list down. This is too many guys. Most of these guys are going to play. I'll tell you what, tomorrow, I'm going to skip over a lot of these guys because most of them literally 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 guys. 11 of these guys are going to play, more likely than not. Joe Mixon, I don't think is going to play. Alex Redmond may not play. Tony Brown probably won't play. And then you got to watch out for Higgins and Mike Thomas. Those 2 are questionable as well. But more likely than not, everybody else is going to play. So this list, albeit long, is very misleading. As we get back to in other news, we heard from Ron Rivera, Jack Del Rio, our defensive coordinator as well. We heard from Terry McLaurin. We heard from Chase Young. And we heard from Steven Sims Jr. yesterday. So a lot of guys spoke over the last 2 days. Before we get to any of that, Jason Wright, our team president, spoke again about the name. And quickly, we already know this. It's kind of like we're rehashing the same things over and over again. I just thought I'd mention it. He said that the Washington football team name is definitely in the running to remain the name. Like, you know, there's been this prevailing thought that they're going to change the name. Like, this is just a placeholder until they figure out what the new name is going to be and they get all of the legalities out of the way and get all the trademarks and things that they need, figure out, you know, what the uniforms are going to look like, if there are going to be any significant changes, all that stuff. So, you know, in our mind, we're thinking that they're working on all of that stuff behind the scenes and that this is just a placeholder this year and next. Maybe even possibly beyond 2021. But he's like, no. This is really in play. And we know that already. We've talked about this. Washington football team could potentially be here to stay. And, you know, I've heard different reasons as to why that is. Because if Daniel Snyder ever does have to sell, the team is much more attractive to a potential buyer if there is no team name and they can name the team when they buy it. That makes a ton of sense to me. The value of this football team is greater with the name being Washington Football Team than it is, say, if they change it to Red Wolves and the next person that wants to buy is like, I don't like the Red Wolves name. Well, it is what it is. You can change it if you want, but you know how much it costs to change a name? Like, Daniel Snyder is spending tons of money to scrub the stadium and the locker rooms and everything that has had Redskin paraphernalia on it. It costs so much money to scrub that stuff clean and change it. It costs so much money in research and development to kind of come up with a new name. It costs a ton of money to get trademarks and patents and things of that nature. This is a very arduous and costly process that most owners do not want to go through. It's one thing if you're going to change the logo. Like, we saw the Chargers change their logo. We saw the Falcons change uniforms. We saw the Rams change their logo. Okay? It's one thing to change the logo. It's another thing to change the uniforms. It's a totally different thing to change the name. None of those teams changed their names. Hell, even the Las Vegas Raiders, they moved to a different state. They didn't change their team nickname, though. They're still the Raiders. The logo remained the same. The colors remained the same. They just changed where they were. Instead of Oakland or Los Angeles, they're now the Las Vegas Raiders. Still the Raiders. Still the same logo. Still the same color scheme. It takes a lot to change all that stuff. So that does factor into the decision-making process, I believe. If you are hopeful that Daniel Snyder will one day sell, you want this team name to remain Football Team. Because if he has to sell, you're more likely to get someone to purchase this team. And trust me, if he were to put this team up for sale, you'd have a bunch of people wanting to buy it. Most people with money want into this league. So whether this team is Red Wolves or Football Team, I don't think he's going to have that tough of a time selling it. It's just about getting the most bang for your buck. You want more money? Have this team be named Washington Football Team. Anyway, just needed to throw that out there. Rivera spoke, and he talked about several things that were interesting today. One, he talked about the team and the record. And he said, look, I feel like this team is better than the record indicates. But as a wise man once told me, and everyone else out there, once upon a time, you are what your record says you are. And so we're 2-7. And Rivera's like, hey, look, the record is what it is. And I feel like this team is better than 2-7, but we're 2-7. What are you going to do? He said, but I can tell you this. The next time we win is going to be a big win for this team. You know, when you keep coming as close as we've come over the last month, all three of those losses over the last month have been by a combined total of 4 points. 7 points, excuse me. 7 points. 1 point to the Giants in week 6. 3 points to the Giants in week 9. 3 points to the Lions in week 10. So 3 losses by a combined total of 7 points. Those are tough. But if you can get over the hump and win a game, it does so much for your confidence. And, you know, I really think that bye week hurt us. To be brutally honest with you, I remember Morgan Moses saying right before the bye week, when we won against Dallas, he said, I wish we didn't have the bye week. I wish we could just play the Giants this week. And I didn't really know the impact of that statement until we came out flat and turnover happy against the Giants fresh off of a bye week. The momentum that team felt after that Terry speech in the locker room, the momentum that team felt, they were ready to carry that into the next game immediately that Sunday. They didn't need a week to rest and a week to get away. They needed to come right back to work on Wednesday, ready to attack the Giants for the second time this season. Instead, they got that week off and they weren't mentally sharp. and it hurt us. The next time we win a game, there will be no week off. It'll be on to the next one, and it'll be interesting to see if the momentum that they gain from the next win, whether it comes this week or against Dallas the following week, or we don't get another win. Who knows? You know, we talk as if something's guaranteed to us. We don't have to win another game this season. But the way this team is playing, highly unlikely that they don't win another game. If Alex Smith continues to play, and again, we don't know if Alex is going to continue to play this way, but if Alex Smith continues to play this way, it's hard for me to fathom this team not winning a game or two or three the remainder of the season. So it'll be interesting if they win a game to see if it really jumpstarts this team in the right direction. Rivera seems to think so. He's like, one more win, just one win, and I think we can see this team turn the corner. And remember what I told you about Rivera's team. Now, again, it's not an apples-to-apples comparison. Of his first year in Carolina back in 2011, he said that was more of a veteran team, just being led by a young rookie quarterback in Cam Newton. But it's still a veteran group. This is a young team through and through for the most part. The difference is it's the inverse. That was a veteran team led by a rookie quarterback. This is a young team led by a veteran quarterback. But Ron finished that season up 6-10. That means they won 4 out of their final 7 games. This team and Ron's 2011 team, his first year in Carolina, they both were 2-7 after 10 weeks of football. The difference right now is that team in Carolina finished up the season winning 4 out of their final 7. Can we duplicate that here in Washington? We'll see. Because 4 out of your final 7 gets you to 6-10. That puts you dead in the middle of the NFC East race. I swear it does. Might even win you the division at 6-10, to be honest with you. Can this team do that? If you're going to do it, this is the week. Cincinnati. Can't beat the Bengals. And I'm not looking at the Bengals as the little sisters of the poor. They are a splitting image of us, sans for the quarterback position. Instead of them having a veteran at the quarterback position, they got a young guy that they're looking to grow with. So they're ahead of if you ask me, they're ahead of us in the process because they got a young quarterback that's learning how to win now. It's taking his lumps now. If we were to draft one, we'd have to go through that process again with a young quarterback. Unless you get Patrick Mahomes. You know, then you get lucky. That guy doesn't have to go through growing pains. He just jumps in and starts dominating the league. Those are so rare, though, as we all know. So, they don't know how to win just like we don't know how to win. They're a young team just like we're a young team. They make young team mistakes just like we make young team mistakes. They've given up the most sacks in the league this season, and, you know, we're a team that turns it over among the worst in the league. So, everything that we do, they do it either the same or to a lesser extent. But they're young just like we are. They make mistakes just like we do. They don't know how to win and close out the show just like we don't. The only difference is they got a young quarterback that is fearless, and they beat one of the better teams in the league in the Tennessee Titans already this season. We don't have a win that even closely resembles that on our resume. So, and oh, by the way, they can score 30. They've done it multiple times this season. We have not. So, again, that's something else to consider. But, you know, Ron seems to think very highly of this team, and he thinks that the next win is going to be a massive one because it's going to change the way that this team views the rest of the games on the schedule. Right now, they're a team hoping to win, not expecting to win. He feels like if they get that next win, they're going to go into the next game after that expecting to win. And that's what they just need, that confidence builder, that pick-me-up. And he feels like that's only going to come by virtue of a victory. So we'll see. Jack Del Rio was on a Zoom call. And remember, everybody's doing it virtually. So, you know, Jack was on a virtual call. And look, Jack pretty much said, look, really disappointed in the outcome of the Detroit game. He said, look, I'm more disappointed about getting the stops to put us in a position to tie the game. And then when we had a chance to get the ball back to the defense or the offense with a chance to win it, we didn't do it. We gave up the field goal. I said the same thing in the film breakdown. Like, one of the most disappointing things of the game was the fact that they got the stops to get us back in the game. And then when we needed that one more stop, and it was a lot to ask of a defense that had been getting gashed all day, but we needed one more stop. They couldn't get it. And to me, the biggest individual F up was the final play of the game offensively for Detroit, or defensively for this team, with the guys playing so far off. Jack pretty much said, look, we'll learn from that. They will learn from that. You should have already known that. You should have had those boys. That's not the first time you've been in a position like that. But he's right. They will learn from that. But I'm not putting the onus on them for that play. I'm putting it on you. He was asked about Chase Young. He talked about Chase Young being a stand-up guy, him, owning up to his mistake. But he was also asked about, do you think with Chase taking on all these doubles and even triple teams at times, that other guys on the interior need to win? And he's like, look, it's a situation where it's not just the front end, it's not just the back end, it's a combination. And I've talked about this. And I talked about it a lot in the Detroit game, because what I've realized the last couple of weeks in watching this team, look, there's been some opportunities for sacks. Guys, these quarterbacks have dropped back 5-step, 7-step drops. There've been opportunities for you to get to the quarterback. And can't always blame it on double and triple teams. Chase Young isn't getting doubled and triple teamed every snap. He's getting doubled and triple teamed a lot of snaps, though. But other guys are getting double teamed, too. It's not just Chase Young. Deron Payne's getting double teamed. Jonathan Allen's getting double teamed. Montez Sweat is getting double teamed at times. There's enough double teams to go around. But also, teams are getting rid of the football very quickly. In this Detroit game, I highlighted this time and time again. There's no time to get to the quarterback. It's a 3-step drop, back foot hits the ground, ball's out. In damn near less than 2 seconds, it feels like at times. This ball is coming out instantaneously. Feels like guys don't have a chance to even get up the field. The thing that I don't like is guys don't get their hands up either. You're not getting to the quarterback, get your hands up. We don't have enough batted balls. But that being said, he said, look, we'd like to get more pressure on the quarterback, but it's not just one guy. It's not just the defensive line. It's the back end, too. It's all married together. And he's right. He talked about the run defense, and I thought this was interesting. Talked about the run defense. And we haven't been good the last few weeks. That's not a secret. And he said, look, the run defense has actually been pretty good this year. It hasn't been great, but it's been good enough. We need it to be better, but it hasn't been terrible. We need to improve. He said, but we're pretty high up there in every statistical category, including sacks. We're 5th in the league in sacks, just so you know. And he's like, we're up there, and the run defense seems to be lagging slightly behind everything else, which it is. And he's saying, a lot of people are down on the linebackers, and we need more production out of linebackers. This is the first time he's acknowledged that. Ron was the one harping about needing more production out of the linebackers. Jack would not give in. Jack would say, well, we've put a lot on their plate. I'm pretty pleased with what we've gotten out of the linebacker position. They can be better, but they've played fine. They've made their share of plays this year, and I like my front seven. He tried to lump all of them together. This is the first time that he acknowledged we need more production out of the linebackers. They need to be better. And because of that, and this is something that I brought to the forefront during the film breakdown for the Lions. I said this. I think I might have even said it a week ago versus the Giants. You're getting guys now trying to play hero ball because they don't trust the guys behind them to do their job. And that's when you start having defensive breakdowns. When Chase Young is jumping inside, trying to make a play when he knows he should be setting a physical edge on the outside, spilling that run back inside to his linebackers. But because he doesn't trust those linebackers to make plays, he's telling himself, I got to make this play or else it's not going to get made and it's going to end up being a 13-yard gain. That's when you start having big plays happen. When guys take it upon themselves to go outside of the defensive scheme to try to make plays because they don't trust their fellow man. That's that slippery slope we're kind of going down right now. You see it with Jonathan Allen. You see it with Chase Young. You're seeing it with some guys that normally play gap sound team defense are now trying to jump out of their gaps to make plays in the backfield because they don't trust the linebackers behind them. Now you're getting into that scary territory. We saw it 3 times in the game with Chase Young. Him jumping inside and getting out of his gap responsibility, trying to make a play and giving up a bigger play. A crucial 3rd and 1 on that last drive before the field goal drive to win it. That last drive when they took the lead at 24-24. 3rd and 1, you got a chance to get off the field. They run essentially a sweep with the running back, and Chase Young jumps inside, and he goes right around DeAndre Swift, right around the corner where Chase Young should have been, blowing that play up. But because he doesn't trust the linebackers, he doesn't trust Kendall Fuller, who messed up the very first play of the game, coming inside, supposed to have outside contain. You think about those things. Fuller didn't have outside contain the last time when they did it on the first play of the game. So you know what? I don't trust him again this time. I'm just going to jump inside and try to do it my damn self. Well, now you've created an easy wall for that tight end to wall off 3 defenders, and now it's an easy sprint to the edge and an 11-yard gain on 3rd and 1. And Del Rio pretty much said, look, some guys are trying to do too much. That's a byproduct of you not trusting your teammates. And you hear guys say, we just got to trust our teammates. We got to trust the scheme. You just got to be able to trust that your guy's going to be where he's supposed to be when he's supposed to be there. And right now, I feel like that trust is waning. We'll see. But I thought Del Rio was candid as he always is. Talked about Joe Burrow and the matchup this Sunday and, things that they see in Burrow. At the end of the day, he said it best. This defense, it's really solid. But there's some things they got to clean up. He says that every week. It's the truth. Some of that stuff probably not going to get cleaned up until season's over. Let's be honest with ourselves. Let's take a look at this game versus Cincinnati. All right, let's take our first look at this game. I look at the Cincinnati Bengals, and I see a team, and I've already mentioned to you, and I've already kind of given you a first look. I look at the Bengals, and I feel like I'm looking in a mirror. The only difference is they've got a young quarterback that they're building a future with right now in Joe Burrow that they're going to build around, and we don't. We don't think that guy's on the roster. Some of you do still think that guy's on the roster. For most of us, we realized that ship's more likely than not sailed. But they're taking their lumps with their young quarterback, and he's getting invaluable experience. And this guy is on pace to set numerous rookie records this season with the way he's playing, including completions, yards, and maybe even touchdowns. He might even approach that record as well. I don't think he'll get to the touchdowns record. He's not lighting it up at an alarming clip from a touchdown standpoint, but his yardage is out of this world, and his completions are insane. And attempts, probably will break that record too. So Burrow right now is playing exceptional ball. He's really confident, and that's the thing you keep hearing players echo. Because remember, he was at Ohio State at one point. We've got a few Ohio State players on the roster, and Haskins and Chase Young and McLaurin. And so all those guys were asked their fair share of Joe Burrow questions. And the thing that you always hear from everybody is that he's a competitor. And I told you when I was scouting him, the one thing that I love about Joe was he was a competitor. He's one of those guys, and you can use that against him. He doesn't like to give up on plays. He thinks he can make something happen even when the defense has won that particular snap. He still thinks, I can will us to a win on this snap. That's how you make mistakes. And he's made his fair share of mistakes because he's a young quarterback. He's a rookie. He's going to make mistakes. It'd be nice for him to make 1 or 2 of those this week. But we've got to force the issue. Jack also said, yeah, Cincinnati's dead last in giving up sacks this year. But guess what? You got to get them in positions to have a chance to tee off. In other words, and I talk about this every week during the film breakdown. In order to get to pin your ears back, that old adage, pin your ears back. Whatever the hell that means. What the hell does that even mean anyway? Pin your damn ears back. What the hell is that? In order to rush, and I call it, this is what I like to say. In order to have fun, you got to stop the run. You want to have fun on 3rd down rushing the quarterback, you got to stop the run on 1st and 2nd down. Well, we at times will get a stop on first down, whether it's a run or they throw it and it's incomplete or they throw it and it's a short gain. And we'll find ourselves in 2nd and 10 or 2nd and 8 or 2nd and 7. And then we'll give up 6 or we'll give up 5 or we'll give up 9. We had the Lions in 2nd and 20 twice in this game. Twice. One time they got 26 yards on a screen. The other time they got 13 to make it 3rd and 7. That's losing football. You want a chance to get after the quarterback? You can't allow them to get into a 3rd and 4 after having them in 2nd and 9. You can't allow them to get into a 3rd and 1 after having them at 2nd and 10. We had, on that drive that they kicked the field goal to take the lead 27-24, we had the Lions in a 2nd and 15. And we let them run a 14-yard curl route. No, I think it was a 2nd and 12. It was a 2-yard loss. Sean Deion Hamilton makes a 2-yard tackle for loss. It's 2nd and 12. And one of the few completions that Ronald Darby gave up on the day, he gives up an 11-yard curl route right in front of the sticks. Now it's 3rd and 1. You had them in 2nd and 12, deep in their own territory, and you give up an 11-yard curl that brings up 3rd and 1. And that's the 3rd and 1 that I was just talking about where Chase Young jumps inside and they run for 19 yards. You have to be able to get them in a position where you're allowed to turn the dogs loose and get after Joe Burrow. Whether that's a 4-man rush or you're blitzing, it doesn't matter. You can't do those things if it's 3rd and 2. Because all he needs is a 3-step drop, back foot hit the ground, and the ball's coming out, and it's a 1st down. You need it to be a long developing play so that guys have a chance to get there. That's only going to occur if it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 10, 3rd and 12. So, as Jack said, you got to put yourself in those positions to be able to get after the quarterback. This Cincinnati team is scary because they can score offensively. They're young and they're dumb and they don't know better. They don't know that they're supposed to stink. They don't know that they're supposed to turn it over. They're oblivious. They're just going out and playing ball and getting better every week. They've only been destroyed this year by the teams that are supposed to destroy them. Baltimore and Pittsburgh. They've been in every other game this season for the most part. They don't get their asses handed to them. They're gaining confidence. Just like we came off of the bye and we stunk it up, they just came off of a bye against Pittsburgh last week and they stunk it up. But I think they've hit the reset button now and they're back to normal and they're looking at us like food. They're ready to eat. They think, hey, we almost beat an NFC East team already this year in Philadelphia. We haven't played Dallas yet. We think we can beat them. And we haven't played the Giants yet. We think we can beat them too. They're looking at this division and saying, we should take care of the rest of this division. We should have beat Philadelphia. We let them off the hook. Let's not let Washington off the hook. We're going to see. We think we can beat them. They think they can beat us. Somebody's right. We'll have a full breakdown of this game, keys to the game for offense and defense. This is a scary Cincinnati team, just so you know. Fully capable of putting up 35 on us. We can't go to 35 right now. We're not capable. Till we prove we can score 30, we're not capable of going to 35 or 38. This Bengals team is capable, fully capable. If you're not careful, if you want to give up big plays, they can make big plays. They're not afraid. Joe Burrow is not bashful. We'll talk about them more tomorrow and a prediction for the game. But that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me here on Washington Football Nightly. Remember, if you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. Also, go ahead and hit that like button on your way out if you haven't already done so. I really appreciate every single one of you guys and gals out there. Look forward to chopping it up with you either tomorrow on the podcast, tonight for Thursday Night Football overtime, or Sunday afternoon after this game has met its completion for Washington Football overtime. Look forward to chopping it up with you guys in the MOBB, okay? If you aren't watching the game with us, you're more than welcome to come. We enjoy ourselves. We see a lot of the things as they're happening real time, talking about this team, watching the game together in the community. Down below in the description is a link to join the Mob Squad. MOBB, stand up. We in the building. So if you aren't a part of the group, we'd love to have you. So go ahead and join. We'll be watching this game just like we've watched a lot of the games together this season and talking about the game as it is playing live. So with that being said, I'm going to glide to the side, allow you to enjoy Thursday Night Football. Should be a dandy. Seahawks hosting the Cardinals. We're getting part 2 of that. Remember, we got a great game on Sunday Night Football a couple weeks back. So looking forward to this one on Thursday night. But until we meet again, you guys take care. I'm your man, Louie T. This has been Washington Football Nightly. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hole. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35, the 30, the 20.